ne yo hane ha kayuani yo hane ne yo hane ha kayuani yo hane ne yo.
Akwesasne TV welcomes you to our 2015 election coverage. Today I will be interviewing Brian David, who is running for MCA Grand Chief. Sego, Brian.
Sego.
So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I currently reside on Cornwall Island. I've been there for about 25 years. Going backwards, I was born in 1952, and I'm originally from St. Regis. That's where I went to school, grade school. Like everyone else, I did most of my high schooling in Cornwall. After that, went to work for a while. Did some minor work, went to college, university. Spent a good year as a counselor at Salmon River. Did some work with the Traveling College. And then I worked about a good 15 years with the federal government. I was with the Department of National Defense, working on the civilian sector as a human resource planner. It was a really good job or opportunity at the time. I really enjoyed the work there. And then what happened was in and around 1989, 1990, the Oka crisis, there was the outbreak. And at that particular time, the chief of the defense staff, I believe his name was the Chastelet, ordered the army out and they encircled Oka. It was pretty difficult to be a Mohawk at that time working for the Department of National Defense. I didn't feel that I was able to perform to my full capacity. So I asked for a transfer out and I did receive it. I worked for the Treasury Board, which is the central agency, as a senior policy analyst for about a year. And then I returned to Akwesasne and got into politics in '91. I served from '91 to '94 in council and for the District of Kanatago. In 1994, I started my work as a negotiator with the Ontario Power, well, it was called Ontario Hydro at the time, the Ontario Hydro negotiations. And I ran about, we were involved in that for about 15 years. Concurrent with that particular work, I also served as the Director of Justice for MCA. And then I moved on. Retired in 2007 and eventually was re-elected to Kanatago and to where I am right now.
So what made you decide to run for Grand Chief?
More than anything, I'm not particularly, how would you say, satisfied or convinced that the form of the interaction, the relationship that the Mohawk Council and the people have is a healthy relationship. I think to a certain extent, the MCA as a political institution has kind of moved away and lost communication and lost that healthy relationship that it needs to have with the people of Akwesasne in order to be nourished, in order to ensure that the concerns, the feelings, the aspirations of the people of Akwesasne are taken into account in the decision-making process. I've really become concerned about that. That's one of the reasons that I'm running. The other reason, naturally, has a lot to do with prior work that I've had, experience that I've had, the issues on the table with the border. I think there's better work that can be done working with the governments. In some areas, I think our relationship, we have a lot in common with what the United States is looking for in Canada in terms of security. Okay, there's a lot that can be done in that area where we have common interests, but also with the tribe. Building the kind of a relationship that's a productive relationship that speaks to uniting the community as one. Yes, there's an international line there, but we don't necessarily always have to recognize that line or that international line. What we ought to be doing is designing our program in such a way that the impact of that international line is minimized on the people. And we're quite capable of doing that. There's no reason why we can't be doing that. So I think to a great degree, it's time to stop talking about it, and it's time to start doing it. It's time to start walking the walk. The political rhetoric, while it was fine over the last 20 to 30 years, it's got a very short shelf life with the challenges that are currently on the table.
Okay, so what is your prior experience working with civic, community, or governmental organizations?
I've worked a lot with the youth. I've worked with the youngsters at the Freedom School, kind of teaching them the traditional way of cleaning fish, the traditional way of fishing, their responsibility as a fishing person. We've talked about rights. I've balanced that off with responsibilities. And I enjoy doing that. I really, really enjoy that. I've had a very good career as a lacrosse player. I think I've spent a better part of 35 years of my life playing contact lacrosse, both as a box lacrosse player and as a field player. I'm currently a member of the Akwesasne Lacrosse Hall of Fame Committee locally here. And I'm also a member of the Tri-District Elders. I'm old enough to be an elder, I guess. There's another way of putting it. I'm a card holder for the elders.
Okay, and so what do you see as the three most important concerns facing Akwesasne?
Naturally, a protocol of some type or an agreement on the situation with CBSA and the resolution of that. In some of my literature, I had spoken about lobbying efforts that I would undertake with Canada and with the United States to see about accelerating the decision to move the CBSA from Cornwall to the Messina port in order to improve a couple of things. It would improve transport within our community. It would recognize our internal mobility rights, our right to go from one part of the territory to the other part of the territory, and it would allow better economic development, better small business development in all sectors of the territory. But that's one area I think that it's really important that we need to get a handle on. The other part is coming to terms with international security. I had spoken a little bit about it before. We have a lot in common. The United States doesn't want to see terrorists in the United States, and we saw what happened with the Twin Towers. Canada's the same way. Well, we don't either. And I remember making that statement in Washington, D.C. We have a lot in common. I don't know, most people in Akwesasne do not want to have terrorists running across the St. Lawrence River. This is what we're looking for, is to establish peace and harmony within the territory. So what we ought to be doing is working together to ensure that that doesn't happen. I think the third point that I would like to take a look at are basically some of the old initiatives that never really got off the ground that people talked about, and it was just talk. There's a huge capacity within this community to take a look at things like organic farming, like an agricultural program, like ensuring that we've got food security in Akwesasne, like taking a look at alternative energy development. We have there's a huge capacity here for alternative energy development, and we're not really capitalizing on it. I think we can do all of that in a way that wouldn't have any negative impact on the environment, and blends in very nicely with the principles that guide our daily lives.
So what areas of Akwesasne do you think present an opportunity for economic development and revitalization?
I've spoken about a couple so far, the alternative energy development. I remember bringing a proposal to council a while back, and it was for an alternative energy system. We were looking at setting that up at the arena. It was a seven megawatt project. It would have taken a look at, it was a boiler system. We would have brought lumber and wood chips to run the boiler system. And from that the boiler system would essentially create the pressure to generate electricity. The heat from that system, we were going to stream the heat off to a series of greenhouses that we were going to set up. Maybe about 1 acre, 2 acres of greenhousing, where we would then have year-round vegetables available for the community. That particular proposal, I had partnered up with a group, or actually 2 groups from Toronto that are internationally recognized, internationally renowned for their work in this area. I brought the proposal to the table and I couldn't get approval. We just couldn't move that, get approval from the council for those projects. These are projects most of the community doesn't hear about because they get stopped at the table. We need to go beyond that to say, yes, we can do this and let's move with it.
On our own?
On our own. Yeah. On our own. We need to manage these projects. We need to be in the driver's seat. Another area where we've spoken a lot for the last 40 years is tourist development. But we need to develop a tourist strategy that is consistent, very consistent, and sensitive to the environment to which we live. And we need to develop the tourist strategy in a way that will actually enhance the environment that we live, in which we live, a tourist industry that could be educational and at the same time provide good employment opportunities for our young people. Those are the areas, package areas that I'm looking at. All of that is contained in the strategy that I wrote back about in 2010. I did the preliminary draft of it. It's called the Akwesasne Economic Recovery Strategy. And we're currently following that strategy.
Okay, so last question. In your own words, why do you think residents should vote for you?
I want people to vote, first of all. Okay, and I want to say this. There's a demographic out there, 18 to 27. These are the 18 to 27-year-olds in Akwesasne. They don't know it. They ought to know that they are a significant political force in this community. They constitute pretty close to 25% of the vote. They can sway elections. When they say, well, I've got nobody to talk to, or my voice doesn't matter, if things get organized, if that group gets organized and polarized, they can make decisions. They can force things to move forward. Now, what we need are some experienced people just to point the direction. Not to say this is the way you're going to do it, but to say generally, and taking a look at our history and our oral tradition, taking a look at the catastrophes that we've come across over the past 50 years, taking a look at the kinds of relationships that we would like to have with outside governments. This is the direction that we ought to be going. I think I have the experience for it. I think I have the background for it. And I certainly have the commitment for it. There are 2 other candidates that have very, very good backgrounds. I think they're equally capable. It's a matter of whether or not the people think that their background suits the challenge that's at the table. And that's what really this is going to amount to. If the people, I think the people's decision, I'll respect whatever that decision is, that decision will reflect, okay, the best person suited for the challenge at hand. Now, I should mention, I retired in 2007. I'm not looking for another long-term occupation. What I'm looking for is to get things done. That's what I'm looking to do.
Do you have would you like to add anything?
I wish my candidates all the best. I would like to thank Akwesasne TV for making these broadcasts possible. I would like to thank you personally for taking the time out of your busy day to sit down and to do this interview, and for your assistance, and to Akwesasne TV for making all of this possible. When I originally broached the topic with the staff of this television station. I knew it was difficult because I didn't think that there was a policy in place dealing with political campaigning, and I really appreciate the strategy, the approach that you've taken in making this possible. The strategy is one that will be fair to all of the candidates. So thank you very much.
Nyawako for coming. And there you have it. Nyawa for watching. I'm Akwesasne Gohe David for Akwesasne TV.
Yo, honey.